Hello and welcome. My name is Matthew Poltak and I will be your host and moderator today. Thank you for joining us for Neoscope's Webinar Wednesday series. These webinars are just one of the many resources available to you on our website, www.neoscopeit.com. First off, a little bit about Neoscope Technology Solutions. There we go. We are a managed service provider that specializes in tailored IT solutions and services with a local presence but a global reach. But we aren't your average managed IT company, though. From the start, we've made proactive service our core principle, and unlike others, we don't profit from your pain. Our team of 20-plus IT professionals not only excels in providing best practice, preemptive, and reactive solutions, but we possess the customer service skills and structure that makes us a true extension of your team. Whether it's providing complete managed services or one-time assessments and consultations to Neoscope Shield, which is our new comprehensive IT solutions service. We're ready to help you grow your business. Now, today's topic is backup and disaster recovery and the top 4 common mistakes made by IT managers. Our featured presenter today is Axcient Stephen Noel. Axion is our trusted expert and partner in all things backup related. So before I pass it off to Steve to begin the presentation with some background on Axion and its product services, if you have any questions, there is a question box in the control panel. So if you want to just submit them into there, and we will get to them at the end of the presentation. So take it away.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Matthew. And as we said, my name is Steve Noel, and I am our product evangelist for Axion. So I spend quite a bit of time talking about Axion's product and what we do and those types of things. Today, what we really want to talk about is some of the thought leadership pieces, as we've talked about here, and predominantly some of the top 4 mistakes that IT managers make. And it was pretty interesting when we were putting the presentation together, is that often people look at mistakes and they look at that as being a real negative connotation. One of the things we want to do is make sure that some of the pitfalls, some of the things that are out there, some of the changing landscape that's going on, that in fact things are being adjusted for, that you're making those adoptions into your business to make sure that you're taking advantage of those things. So our agenda today are really talk about those 4 deadly pitfalls that managers must avoid. Failing to protect the digital assets of a business. Basically the data. If you're not protecting the data of the business, you're going to have a hard time, really fulfilling your duty of protecting that business. Failing to use innovative technology. Not only is just new stuff is cool, but to have a competitive advantage and enhance the productivity of things that are going on as well. Many people are failing to use their IT resources as efficiently as they should be. Now, again, very common thing. We'll get more into that as well. And failing to respond to the end user's needs in the new mobile environment. So as things are going on, becoming more and more mobile workforce, BYOD, all of those different things that are going on, making sure we adapt and are covering those as well. Very good, we can. There we go. So let's talk about protecting digital assets. The first pitfall. The big thing is just setting terminology and make sure people are talking about the same thing. And many people go, I have a backup of my data, so I'm protected. I've protected my data. I have a copy of it. Well, backup equals some protection, but does protection equal backup? Not always the case. So think of it this way. If you make a copy of your data, if something happens to that initial copy of the data, yeah, you have a copy. But how quickly can you recover from it? Are you going to be able to continue to do business? Are you going to be able to do those types of things? So a simple backup is never enough protection as we go through. So if you're measuring success by protection of data, you're really going to fall into that pitfall. So when we're protecting the digital assets, you say, well, what else do I need then? If just backup isn't enough. So I like to use an analogy when we talk about it. If you're driving down the road and you get a flat tire, fortunately you have a backup of that tire, and that's a spare. We keep it in the trunk, we pull over to the road, you jack the car up, we put the tire on, and we're rolling back down the road. Backup saved us when we had that flat tire. However, if we had a real problem, a flat tire that actually caused us to lose control of the car and we drove into a ditch and damaged the car, now we need insurance. That's disaster recovery. And so the insurance company is going to have the car towed away, they're going to fix the damage and return it to us. And that's good. That's disaster recovery. But when? When are we getting the car back? Are you going to be able to drive to work? Are you going to be able to take your kids to school? Could you lose your job because you're not getting to work? If your rental car company provides the rental car option, well, that's disaster recovery. That's giving you that next level of protection that we're looking for. That's really disaster, that's business continuity. So backup, disaster recovery, business continuity are different things. So when we talk about backup and we talk about what else you need, basically what we're looking at is we want a copy of the data. That copy of the data needs to be off-site, and that data that's both on and off-site that we have copies of needs to be in a format that allows us to rapidly bring it up so that you're able to continue to run and do business. So we want to really judge the success of protecting the assets by the ability to access and use the digital assets that you have. So if you have a copy of the data but you can't actually get to the data, does it really help you? That's what we're really looking for. Traditional systems that have been used since kind of the dawn of computers to protect systems fall short in today's kind of modern environment. So on-premise backup that we talked about, I'm using backup product to a local external drive, and I have a copy, and so that's better than nothing, but it is not going to protect you from system failures. It's not going to allow you to really prevent downtime. It's not a scalable solution if your business is growing. So there's some things that you don't want to do. As many companies continue to grow, and especially as they become more and more virtual, they will run those virtual environments on a SAN, and then they'll replicate that SAN either to a co-location facility or they're building across the street or something of that nature. Now it's going to cost more money because we're doubling the amount of data. If you go out and buy one SAN, you have to buy two. A little more complicated to have that replication process. Duplicate hardware that we have, it can take hours to fail over even if you have that ability, and sometimes this is people just replicating their data. And true replication is a backup because replication will make a copy. It has one piece of one file is a location where you have a file, and it replicates that file to another location. If that file gets corrupted or damaged, it's going to replicate that damaged or corrupted file. So now you have two copies of damaged files. So again, replication is not backup. Many people will have a fully replicated data center. This was something that was more important and the only real option for people years ago to have a true disaster recovery site. So they would replicate all of their hardware, every server they had, all of the software on the servers, replicate all the data on those machines, and have basically a hot site available. Again, very expensive solution and very difficult. So most small businesses, it was way out of their reach. They didn't have the ability to do that. So we can head to our next slide here. Excellent. So the 5 challenges we really had: backup's not enough. You need resiliency. We are looking at mixed environments. Customers have mixed environments across multiple locations. So if you have Windows and you have Linux and you have physical and you have virtual and you have different locations, you often have to have multiple solutions to correct that or to solve those items. And so by doing that, your cost and complexity of support and the backup becomes very difficult. As a business, you need to be up and running all the time and more often. So you need to have shorter restore point objectives and restore time objectives. Now, restore point objective is how much data could you lose between each backup that you do. So if you're only doing backups once a week and something were to happen and it was a week ago since you did your last backup, you would have to recreate a week's worth of data. That's a restore point. A restore time is the amount of time it takes you to make that data available. And so if you had it on tape, let's say across town, and you had to call somebody and they had to drive it across, and it takes you 2 days to get the data off the tape to be able to recover it, that's the restore time objective. Everyone would like all of their data available all the time, ready with a hot failover as a fully replicated data center, but that's a very cost-prohibitive solution. It's very complex, and typically, in most cases, not needed. You know, the reality is, I thought I might get sick this year, so I bought some health insurance. I didn't build a hospital. I need the same level of protection as if I owned my own hospital, and I have that with my insurance. The other thing is data is growing at an exponential rate. One of the stats I always like is that, you know, there were more pictures taken last year than the entire history of mankind because of the proliferation of camera phones and all of those things. So data is growing exponentially fast. And so in order to keep up with that, you need to make sure that you're accommodating that in your business as well. Next slide here. So just to summarize our first pitfall, you know, the first pitfall is, you know, you have two options. One, just keep doing backup like you're doing it. You know, I'll back up to a hard drive, I'll back that up to a tape, I'll carry it off-site. You know, again, it was good enough for Grandpa, it's good enough for me. I've never really had major data loss. Why would I do anything else? You could do that. If you do, it's going to leave huge protection holes that are easily fixable with a modern solution. And you're going to stay trapped in pitfall number one. You're going to stay in that area where you're never really able to leverage and get out of that spot. Option two is add a traditional backup disaster recovery solution. And that's going to cause high cost, high touch, low scalability. It's going to lead you into falling into our pitfall number two, which we go forward. All right, next slide here. Not using innovative technology. This is the second pitfall. A lot of people are afraid of new technology, and they want to wait for things to get through. The reality is new problems need new technology. Security of hardware, software, think about software-defined storage, virtualization, those types of things. We can also use new technology to take care of old problems. I mean, just think about having faster servers with larger capacity drives, gigabit networks. You know, there's nothing new about networks, there's nothing new about a hard drive, but new technology makes them all work better. So it makes sense to invest in those types of technologies when we get more performance. So new innovative technology can make your business faster, more reliable, once you enhance the reliability and provide a competitive advantage in what you're looking for. So if we go to the next slide. So remember pitfall one. If you're using traditional disaster recovery and business continuity solutions, it's going to cost more money. It's going to, again, cause additional problems. Fully replicated data centers, it's a huge money sink. You're investing a lot of money and time for a small thing. There are new innovative technologies that are going to provide protection for those digital assets with far less money and far less effort. Next slide there. So at the beginning, when Matt introduced me and talked about the technology, and I said we'd talk about it a little bit as we get through, the Axcient solution provides data protection at many levels. We're an image-based backup solution. We take a snapshot of that computer, that running system that you have. Once we have that copy, that image of the machine, we can now provide all of these recovery options from that one backup. We can obviously recover individual files and folders, but we can do granular recovery of data within applications like SQL data or like Exchange data, recovering individual messages or contacts if necessary. We can provide a system recovery, or what's called a bare metal restore, meaning if your hardware has died and you need a new computer, but the data and the operating system is fine, we can simply get that new piece of hardware and we can put that entire operating system and all of the applications and all of the data on that machine in a very short period of time, saving a lot of time, downtime, and effort. If you have virtual machines, we can fail those over. If it's a physical machine, we can fail that over as well, meaning we can run a copy of your server as a virtual machine on the Axion appliance, allowing you to continue to run. And should something happen to your entire site, if Godzilla were to step on your building, we would be able to take all of your servers, have them run within our data center, providing the same value that you would have with a fully redundant data center, but at a fraction of the cost. Next slide. So in the second pitfall summary, there is a competitive advantage of using innovative technologies. If you can keep running when others can't, then you're more likely to pick up that business. If you can provide faster recovery, you have less wasted time, less expense of paying people who aren't doing work, less lost orders, those types of things. You always have more data available to you when you need it, and you can provide a real-time sandbox. So this is really useful for things like business intelligence and for testing your system. If, let's say, you need to do some data analytics on your customers, you can do that on your live database while people are trying to use it, but that's very cost prohibitive in a couple different ways. One, we're putting extra load on the server, which means it's going to run slower for people who are trying to access it through a real production system, and it's just difficult. Now we're working and we run the risk of writing a wrong query, getting the machine in a hung state, affecting business operations. By taking that database and running this virtual machine, accessing the virtual machine, we're not impacting production at all. We also have the enhanced productivity. It takes less time to deploy a solution, less time to manage a solution, less time to recover the solution. You have greater failover and recovery options as well. So innovative technology can really go a long way towards providing that additional protection that we've talked about. Next slide, please. Using your IT resources efficiently. This is the third pitfall. One of the things that is very common with resources is everything takes longer today. So you may be an IT manager who has IT resources who are providing all of the things that your employees need today, from setting up new workstations, replacing mice, deploying, again, new innovative technologies, evaluating new softwares and things to make good business decisions moving forward, trying to create budgets, trying to do all of those things. It's really too many people to do all of that. So if we go to the next slide, one of the stats, and this was is one that's been, I think, pretty stable here. The expectation is data is going to grow by 75 times, yet we're only going to have 1.5 more staff to be able to maintain that data growth. So if you're maintaining your own internal IT department, you're going to have a hard time. managing that data unless you get really smart, unless you start using innovative technologies, unless you do those types of things. If you failed at pitfall number 1 and pitfall number 2, then you're definitely going to fail here, because you're going to be investing a lot of the time of your resources in those same old day-to-day grind kind of functions, switching out backup tapes, driving them to a safety deposit box, or calling somebody to come and pick those tapes up, manually recovering data files for people, and doing all of those things is not going to allow you to leverage your resources efficiently. Now, fortunately, you have a company like Neoscope that will help you leverage your resources as well, but understand that data continues to grow, the problems in IT continue to grow and get larger. Your ability to hire people is not going to get a little difficult that you can do. Next slide. So this is a kind of an example, and this is an example that doesn't always apply to a small IT shop and what they're doing, but this shows the power of leveraging an innovative technology like Axcient in the amount of manpower that it can save. So our partners, like Neoscope, who use a solution like ours, are able to cut the amount of time that it takes a resource to manage large numbers of customers, and saving a huge amount of manpower and time to do that. Next slide. So if we summarize our third pitfall, if you fail to use your IT resources efficiently, you know, you're going to stay in this pitfall. You're going to just stay here if you're not leveraging technologies to allow your resources to, in the old words, work smarter, not harder. But you do need to do more with less. And so one of the things that we leverage is providing some tools to do that. Very common thing in IT is if somebody loses data and you're able to recover it, you did your job. If you're not able to recover it, you may lose your job. There is no one who's going to throw you a ticker tape parade because you recovered some files that somebody deleted accidentally. You just did what you were supposed to do. But if you can't recover it, it's a huge failure of one of your primary options. So this is a no-win situation for most people. We said data's growing, your personnel are not, so you really need to be able to leverage that. So, end users in the new mobile environment, fourth pitfall. Right. And start with a why should you care? Well, you may have workers that are working remote, often people on maternity leave who stay home and work, traveling salespeople, traveling technical people, all out there with company information that needs to be protected. It needs to be protected just as if they were in the office. As we continue to hire more and more people as they enter the workforce, the millennials, they expect everything to be available, always on, always connected. It's not something that folks of my generation and others, had. I expected cable TV to be out. I expected the phone to not work at times. I expected the radio stations to be fuzzy. People that are entering the workforce today do not. They expect everything to be working and always working correctly. There's company data that's getting created outside of the firewall. And again, that needs to be protected. And the traditional methods that we talked about are not able to do that. You have to rely on individuals to protect their own systems, and it's frankly just not going to work efficiently. Next slide. Again, we talked about Axcient. Axion is what's known as a hybrid cloud solution. So we have an Axion appliance, which you'll see right there in the middle of the screen, that can be either a physical appliance or a virtual appliance running in VMware that protects the entire environment, everything that's on your network, physical servers, virtual servers, laptops, desktops, just storage that's sitting out there. All protected through a single interface, giving you the ability to copy the data locally, so we have backup. It replicates to the cloud, so it's off-site. There's your DR, and you have the ability to fail over in both places, which is your business continuity. What we've also introduced is our direct-to-cloud offer, which you see there in the arcing rainbow going over them. Direct-to-cloud gives you the ability to protect devices that are not on the network. So as people travel around like I do with my laptop, we're still able to provide an image backup of that machine, replicate that directly to the cloud, bypassing the need for that local appliance, but still allowing you to have failover ability, recover individual files, all within the cloud as well. Next slide. So to summarize our fourth pitfall, you need to protect the data wherever it's created. So you are responsible to maintain the integrity of that data. And again, if customers are working remote, if your employees are working remotely, you need to make sure that you're protecting that data as well. And we need to make sure we keep systems up and running. If the boss or somebody is traveling to a sales call in New York and they drop their laptop at the airport or on the subway tracks or whatever, we need to be able to recover that data quickly for them so that they're able to do that presentation that they need to do. Is your current system able to do that? If not, we might want to consider taking a look at a new solution and getting out of pitfall number 4. Next slide. So just to kind of sum up the 4 pitfalls that we've talked about, so these 4 deadly pitfalls that you have to avoid. You have to avoid failing to protect the digital assets of the business. If you're not protecting the data, the business isn't protected. The business could fail at any time due to simple hard drive failures or something of that matter if the data gets corrupted and you're not able to recover that as well. If you fail to use innovative technologies, then you're not going to get competitive advantages. You're not going to be able to enhance productivity, which means the cost of the business is going to continue to stay kind of flat, or as the business grows, those costs grow along with that as well. We need to be able to help businesses. As your business grows, you need to be able to do more with less. You also need to make sure that you are not failing to use your IT resources efficiently. Even if those are Neoscope's employees who are doing the work, if you've outsourced your work to them, you still want to make sure that you're leveraging them efficiently. And they're not doing a lot of make work for you. That becomes very expensive. You want them to be doing really innovative things and progressive things with your network, not doing the very basic things. And you don't want to fail to respond to the end user's needs and the needs for the mobile environment. Again, people are more and more mobile. They are using different devices. They are on and off the network. We still need to protect that data. All of these pitfalls are avoidable with a modern disaster recovery as a service solution like Axion. Next slide. So as we've talked about those traditional methods that were out there, again, tape backup and server replication and having redundant data centers, you can see how the cost of those systems grows up exponentially as you do that. Axcient provides the same value that you would have with a warm, redundant data center for about the same cost of local backup. So you're really getting a huge scale advantage there of leveraging a technology like Axcient. Next slide. So I'm more than happy to take any questions that anyone might have. And Matt, I don't know if you've been watching the board, if we have any questions that have come in.
Yep, we have a couple questions. All right.
Excellent.
So first question is from Mark. What sets the Axcient / Neoscope backup solution apart from other alternatives?
Sure. So there's a couple different pieces, especially when we combine not only what Axcient can provide, but what Neoscope's going to provide on top of that. So the Axcient solution is going to allow you to have one product to protect everything in your environment. Again, that's laptops and desktops along with servers, whether they're physical or virtual. We're going to apply the 3-2-1 rule that you might have heard before about backup, which means we're going to have 3 copies of the data, 2 different medias and 1 off-site, and we're going to accomplish that automatically for you. And it's going to give you a much higher level of failover ability at a much lower cost than you might currently have. Being partnered with Neoscope in that, because it's going to be managed and monitored for you, they're taking that entire load off of you as well. So that's going to allow you to not have to worry about, did my backup succeed, did my backup fail? We know that somebody else is monitoring that for you and making sure that those digital assets are protected appropriately.
Perfect. Okay, next question. I use a single license of backup exec to an external hard drive, and I take offsite. So it doesn't cost me anything. That seems good enough, isn't it?
Well, that's an interesting two-part question. So the first thing is the assertion that it doesn't cost you anything. And the reality is it's costing you the biggest thing that you have and the one thing that you can't buy more of, which is time. And so solutions like that, and this is another pitfall or on a separate topic. Often if we don't write a check for something, we think it doesn't cost us anything. And the reality is it costs us time and it does cost us money. So if you realize how much your resources cost you, if you have a basic IT resource, my guess is you're not paying him $2 an hour. He's getting paid a little bit more than that. It takes him time to make sure that the backup's transferred, it gets copied on a hard drive, somebody takes it off site. All of that does take time, which equals money. So you can calculate out and see what your true costs are and then calculate that out for every day that has to happen and the extra hard drives that you need to rotate the data. So there is definitely cost involved. The last part of your question about isn't that good enough, well, it depends. It depends on your situation. My gut answer is, well, no, of course it's not. There are some instances where people, if you were running a hot dog stand or something and you're not very data dependent, that might be good enough. The reality is most businesses today are very dependent on the data, their customers base, their payroll, all of their accounting, all of that is done electronically. And if that data disappeared, would you be able to collect the bills that people owed you? Would you make sure that you paid things appropriately so you didn't end up in problems? Would you be able to pay your employees and do those types of things? Maybe not. When you're relying on people to manually copy data and carry it off-site, you're giving a lot of opportunity for errors to happen. And therefore, that's a system that can't be managed by Neoscope remotely to make sure everything works correctly. So you're never going to be sure that you're protected. So I would have to say no, that's not quite good enough.
Perfect. Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, a couple more. All right. My data replicates to another building across the street. I feel we are very protected. I think they have, yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully you asked that before we talked a little bit about the replication. Many people use even a product like Dropbox, and I use it at home for some stuff. But I don't fool myself that Dropbox is backup, because what happens is, as I said, it will replicate whatever file I put in that directory, whether it's a good file or not. And once it replicates that and it overwrites that existing data, now all I have is a bad copy. I don't really have an archive of data that I can go back to and get to where I knew where the file was good. So that's the same problem you run into with replicating data across 2 SANs, for example. So you can run into that problem. So let's assume it's not pure replication. Let's assume you're doing snapshots and backups to that other location across the street. So, so that's better, but you're still only across the street. So that might protect you if you had a problem with that one particular building. But in order for a system to be a proper disaster recovery solution, it needs to be located at least 50 miles away from the primary point of data. And I always hate to bring up, horrible examples, but 50 miles was always the gold standard for disaster recovery. Hurricane Sandy showed us that wasn't far enough. We have a company that is an Axcient partner now that wasn't. They had a primary and a secondary data center that was about 60 miles apart, and Hurricane Sandy came across and destroyed both the primary and the secondary site at the exact same time because that storm was so huge. So it is important that the data be further away than just across the street. So I would think you might want to reevaluate that, maybe have one of the Neoscope guys come in and take a look at it and see what they can do to assist you. I think you'll be surprised.
Okay. All right, we have one more question. This one might be more directed towards Neoscope. What would be the process if my company were to utilize Neoscope in this particular backup solution? So personally, I'll take this one, Steve.
Sure.
So the steps would go, we would do an initial IT assessment. We would determine your needs, immediate needs, and future needs to design and build out a tailored solution using Axcient Backup that addresses those concerns. From there, we'd move on to proposals and then coming in to kind of settle down and figure out a good plan for you. If you wanted to learn more on that, I would suggest either calling us or emailing sales@neoscopeit.com to get more information on that. But yeah, so I think that one more question actually.
No.
Okay, so if the power goes out in the whole town, is it important that my computers are running?
Well, I think that Matthew just kind of covered part of that. An assessment from a competent IT guy to help you understand what your real business continuity needs are is really what you need to do. Because, as I said, there are some businesses that are not so data dependent. In fact, you might have well, I'll use the example. Let's say if you're running a little mini mart and you lose power and your cash register doesn't work and you can't make a Slurpee. And in that case, you probably don't need to, to worry about being up and running. However, if everybody else has lost power and they want to come and buy coffee at your facility and you've got a generator but you can't ring them up, you're going to lose a lot of business. So you really want to make sure that you're able, to do that. So it is very dependent on your business and what your business model is and what's going on. And that's where often you need to rely on and should rely on an expert to come and assist you with that. So in that case, I would reach out to Neoscope as well and have them come out, do an assessment, and help you understand what your risks are.
Okay, so I think that was the last question. If you do have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to us on our site, contact us page at www.neoscopeit.com, or give us a call or email us at sales@neoscopeit.com. Also, we are offering free IT and security discoveries, so if you're interested in those, go to our website or give us a call. End it with Axcient. Oh, Steve?
All right. Yes, I'm here. So thank you so much for this. Again, I would say if you have any more questions as well, also I would refer those back to the previous slide, have you actually just contact Neoscope. They will obviously be able to answer your questions about Axcient, and if needed, be more than happy to come on and assist them in scoping out and helping you determine if Axcient is a good solution for you. Really appreciate the opportunity today from Neoscope. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve. And just to let everybody know that all of these webinars are recorded and will be up on our site the following day. We have an upcoming webinar in 2 weeks with HP. For more information, go to our website. All right, thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.